Today's episode is brought to you by Forvis Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. The truth is, most businesses don't survive more than 5 years. But to give it the best possible opportunity to surpass this threshold, there are some core principles you need to focus on. Michael Fingland has broken them down into 8 pillars. Michael is CEO of Vantage Performance, which for decades has turned around hundreds of struggling Australian businesses. The first pillar is strategy, and as Michael explains to Chris Ashmore, it requires a one-page strategy plan.
Because if you've got everything on a page, that means you've distilled it. That means you've got it. So you've got your values, you've got your principles, your leadership principles. You've got the key initiatives you're going to roll across those 8 key pillars over the next 12 months. But it's on a page, it's measurable, and it's a tool that you use every month, not just something you produce and put in the drawer. So that's a big one around strategy. And do you communicate that across the entire business so everybody's across it and everyone understands where we're going? Because that's another critical bit. It sounds fluffy, but it's really critical. And are you updating that every quarter?
Right. Well, the next one is knowing your why.
Simon Sinek didn't make it famous, but it sort of brought it back to the forefront of business success. And it is so critical. And for those that haven't heard of it, his TED Talk, I highly recommend you go watch it. It's the second highest TED Talk of all time, called The Power of Why. And that's about really understanding your purpose in a really visceral sense. And the reason why that's so critical, and making money is not the purpose. That's a byproduct. Money should never be the purpose of getting into business because you end up with a superficial business. So what is that genuine passion? What's really getting out of bed in the morning to really drive this business? So it's one thing for the owner to understand that, but the critical bit, and this is why it has a huge impact on the business, is it drives the right customers to your business. It also means you end up with a really sticky workforce. So when things do get tough, your employees are more likely to stick by you and go to 4-day work weeks or do whatever that's needed to avoid redundancies because they love the business so much. They're really attuned and drawn to the power of the why of your business, the whole purpose that the business was set up in the first place. So it's really understanding that purpose, that number one economic engine, which is the hedgehog theory from Jim Collins, and what can we be the best at? That's a really critical tool to have in place. And we see this all the time, as do you, no doubt. Businesses stray from their core. In the pursuit of growth, they get out of their core, they get out of their lane, as we call it, and they're not experts in that field, or there's a sea of competitors, and they end up in a commodity market. So it makes the business weaker. So staying focused on what you're best at, have a really powerful why, and make sure that's articulated through all of your marketing collateral and your recruitment collateral, so it drives stronger sales and a stronger culture.
Mm-hmm. Well, number 3 is habits.
Yeah, and Vern Harnish, Rockefeller Habits 2.0, was another really famous book around this. And it's all about establishing a really good, strong rhythm within the business. So having a weekly huddle with your team to really look at what are the key milestones, the key goals that we need to knock out this week. And then you follow that up with a very short, sharp daily huddle as well. So quick 10, 15 minutes, just short, sharp. What have I got on today? What does success look like today? And do I have any bottlenecks? And that provides the opportunity for other people to chip in and help. So you end up with that culture of everyone helping each other to achieve those key things for the day. It sounds simple, but over time, it just builds momentum in a very big way. The other one is coming up, and there's a whole bunch of habits in here, but the really big one is what is called a quarterly rock. So it's really coming up with a quarterly goal. What's the one thing that'll have the biggest impact for the business for the next quarter? All agreeing on that, ideally company-wide, and then coming up with 3 to 5 initiatives that will help you hit that one big goal. But it forces you to focus on the really most important things. So you don't end up just wasting time and fluffing along and still doing okay, but this is all about being the strongest business you can be and beating your competitors. So that's all about focusing every quarter on the one thing that's going to make the biggest impact. Everyone achieving that, reset, go again, reset, go again. And your strat plan overarches all of those individual quarterly rock plans.
Well, the next one, the 4th pillar, is about sales.
Yes, and we call it Salesforce effectiveness. So it's not just about having a robust sales team, but it's everything from supply chain all the way through. Because if your supply chain, talk about your production process, if you're not picking up issues in the product on the way through, then you've shipped it, you now got a product recall because you've got scratches or you've got a defective unit. So that causes a whole bunch of rework and impacts on your working capital. So when you talk about supply chain effectiveness, how do you set up the sales team to be really effective? Well, you've got to start from procurement. So have you got processes in place to ensure that you're buying really good quality raw materials? You've got good QA processes on the way through to pick up any defects. Once you've sold the goods, you've got a good debt collection policy in place to get the cash back in the door. But it's also about getting regular check-ins from your customers. So we're big fans of the customer net promoter score survey. Quick, regular check-ins on how we're going, how can we be better, using that to benchmark your score. So you're always looking to improve that score every day, every quarter, every year that you're testing that.
Business intelligence, that's number 5.
One of the really big ones. So as you know, we're big about one-page everything. So one-page strat plan, one-page management pack, one-page 13-week cash flow, 3-way forecast. All of your dashboards should be on a page. And the reason why is, again, like the strat plan, if you can distill it onto a page, then you've got the most critical data there that you need to be tracking. And you don't need to be a financial guru to understand what's going on in the business. So you can look at a one page and understand the business on a page. So business intelligence is about making sure you've got good data and that you've got really robust, simple dashboards that you're getting on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, so you can make decisions quicker than you otherwise would. So you're not waiting till 3 weeks after month end to see how you went for the month. You've got that run sheet on the way through. So again, you're more nimble and you can make better decisions quicker and either improve sales or take out costs or whatever it might be.
Next, number 6, working capital.
The one thing that brings 90% of businesses down, and we work with a lot of listed companies as well. It's amazing how many don't have these systems in place. So 13-week cash flow. The reason why it's 13 weeks, it's 90 days, 100 days. So it's a full cycle for most businesses. So it gives you the best intel as to where the levers are in the business to improve cash flow. So 13-week cash flow, those dashboards we've talked about, a robust 3-way forecast, so you can not only forecast over the next 13 weeks, but by month for the next 2-3 years. So you can understand how your cash flow is going to look over the next number of years. And the model should have built into it a number of scenarios that you can play with to see what the resulting impact on your earnings and cash flow is going to be. So a critical tool there, but really understanding your working capital cycle. So mapping how many days it takes to buy some raw material, process it, package it, sell it, and get the cash in. Most businesses don't understand how much cash is tied up in that process. And by understanding how many days are tied up in that working capital cycle, you can then compartmentalize every part of that process and look for delays in the process to tighten them up. So it might take 3 days to get a product packaged and out. Well, it should be half a day at most. So if you shave that by 2.5 days, that means your cash is going to come in 2.5 days quicker. So understanding your working capital days is so critical, but you can't do that unless you've really got those robust 13-week cash flows and 3-way forecasts in place.
Makes sense. Now, the 7th pillar is leadership and culture.
Yeah, really big. So it starts from your why, as I said earlier on. If you have a really strong why, you're more likely to have a strong culture. There's a whole bunch of things that come to that, making sure everyone understands the values of the business. We understand what does our culture look like. So get your team to come up with a sentence that describes the culture that we have or that we're aspiring to. Net promoter score for employees, not just for customers. Regular check-ins to how we're going against those success factors. Get the employees to tell you and how can we improve, how can we be better. So again, a relentless focus on leadership development and training, but culture as well. But it all starts with a really powerful why, which is why all these 8 pillars really combined together. There's not just one or two that you do with it in the isolation of the others. They all work together and impact each other on the way through.
Mm-hmm. And the last one, number 8, is governance and accountability.
The one that always gets left to the last. And a lot of people find governance is, it's a bit staid and boring, but we call it governance and accountability because success in business is being disciplined to do the right things all the time and staying the course and just holding people accountable to what your success factors are, holding people accountable to your purpose and your why, to the number one thing that we're best at, being disciplined and accountable to always managing those top 3 KPIs in the business. So governance is about having that rhythm. So are we looking at our financials regularly, whether you've got a full board in place or just a management team meeting or an advisory board, but being regular and consistent, holding everyone to account on those key success factors that we've agreed, whether it's having a really high customer NPS score, a high employee net promoter score, having profit of X, say 30% or higher, working out what does those key success factors look like, and then using the infrastructure of the business to hold everybody accountable to achieving those key success factors.
That was Michael Fingland, CEO of Vantage Performance. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Chris Ashmore, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Forvis Mazars. To find out more, visit forvismazars.com/au. That's FORVISMAZARS.com/au.